Bittensor is emerging as the Bitcoin of AI, and some key players in the crypto industry have gone as far as to claim that it could in fact be the next Bitcoin.
On becoming the next Bitcoin.
Not surprisingly, the recent rally in its TAO coin has put Bittensor back on the radar. What is surprising, though, is just how much it's changed since it's last been in the headlines and how much potential it could have. And that's why today we're going to bring you up to speed on what Bittensor has been up to, how high TAO could go, and what comes next for this fascinating crypto project. My name is Nick. Stay tuned. First things first, I need to make it clear that nothing in this video is financial advice. It's educational content intended to inform you about Bittensor. Also, do note that nobody at the Coin Bureau team holds TAO in their personal crypto portfolios, and you can trust that today's analysis will be as objective as possible, as always. If you want to know what cryptos we do hold in our portfolios, then you can become a member of the Coin Bureau Club. That's where we do deep dives into promising small cap altcoins every single week, share crypto alpha every day, and discuss emerging narratives in the members' Discord 24/7. If you're interested, the link will be down in the description. Now, the last time we covered Bittensor was in late October last year, so about 7 months ago. Around the time of our last video, Subwallet, one of the most popular Polkadot wallets, announced that it had integrated Bittensor. Now, for context, Bittensor was built using Substrate, the framework used to build Polkadot. As a fun fact, Bittensor originally planned to launch as a Polkadot parachain. As another fun fact, large crypto VCs like Digital Currency Group, or DCG, and Polychain Capital reportedly invested in Bittensor back when it first got started in 2019. If you watched our first update, you'll know that we estimated these investors held around 600,000 TAO last April. Well, shortly after our update in October, DCG announced the launch of a new subsidiary called Yuma, which is focused on Bittensor. Now, for reference, Bittensor's technology was supposedly created by a pseudonymous developer or a group of developers named Yuma Rao, like Satoshi Nakamoto for Bitcoin. However, a recent interview with Bittensor co-founder Jacob Steves suggests that Yuma Rao is just a name for the group of developers working on Bittensor, including himself and Ala Shabana, the other co-founder of Bittensor. In any case, Yuma's purpose is basically to help bootstrap Bittensor's emerging ecosystem by helping onboard more developers and investors. In an April interview, DCG head honcho Barry Silbert said that he hopes Yuma will play the same role for Bittensor as Grayscale did for Bitcoin in its early days. Earlier in the interview, Silbert claimed that Grayscale's Bitcoin Trust was likely what pushed Bitcoin's price from $100 to $1,000 in 2013. For those unfamiliar, Grayscale is another subsidiary of DCG that's famous for launching trusts for Bitcoin and other cryptos, allowing institutional investors to get exposure in a similar way to spot ETFs. Grayscale launched a Bittensor trust last summer, and it only has around $11 million of assets under management at the time of shooting. But recent upgrades could change this in a big way. By the way, if you're finding this information helpful, then help us out by smashing that like button and help yourself find our next video by subscribing to the channel and pinging the notification bell. Right, back to the recent Bittensor upgrades. The first of these upgrades took place in December last year, and that was the introduction of EVM-style smart contracts. And this will make it easier for liquidity to flow into Bittensor from other blockchains. And of course, much of the liquidity in crypto exists on EVM chains like Ethereum and its layer 2s. The second of these upgrades took place in February this year, and that was the introduction of Dynamic TAO, or DTAO for short. To bring you up to speed, Bittensor effectively consists of subnets, which provide AI use cases like image generation, miners, which perform the related computation, and validators, which allocate a portion of TAO emissions to the most useful subnets, ensuring they're sufficiently funded. What the DTAO upgrade did was create a token for each subnet that only trades against TAO, with TAO emissions going to the subnets with the tokens that have the highest average value, rather than the subnets selected by validators. In theory, this aligns incentives within Bittensor's growing ecosystem. In practice, it creates a dynamic, pun intended, that's eerily similar to Virtual's protocol, wherein any speculative demand for Bittensor subnet tokens flows through TAO. As we saw with the Virtual's virtual token during the AI agents hype late last year, this dynamic could result in exponential growth in TAO's price. And as it so happens, Coinbase also listed TAO in February, which will make it even easier for more people to ape in. From our perspective, however, the biggest gains won't be coming from TAO, but from Bittensor's subnet tokens. And this is mainly because they all have much lower market caps than Bittensor, meaning that their prices will go up more in percentage terms, even with less investment. According to TAO stats, there are over 100 subnets and counting, though a few are inactive and some others seem to be very low quality. Thankfully, there's a super easy way to figure out which Bittensor subnets have potential, and that's to look at who's been funding them. For starters, we have Yuma, which you'll recall is the subsidiary of DCG that practically wants to pump TAO's price, and it appears to have funded about a dozen Bittensor subnets. And we also have YZI Labs, formerly known as Binance Labs, which invested in a Bittensor subnet in March. Just last month, DAO5, one of Bittensor's original VC backers, also announced it had raised $222 million to invest in crypto. It's possible that some of this capital will be invested into subnets. Besides investment, another way to figure out which Bittensor subnets have potential is to actually look at what they do and see if it fits in with Bittensor's broader ethos. For example, there's a Bittensor subnet that mines Bitcoin, and FYI, co-founder Jacob Steves claimed in an interview that he was a Bitcoin maximalist. On the flip side, Bittensor's decision to leverage the EVM for smart contracts and its recent integration with Layer 0 suggests there could be significant capital flowing in from Ethereum's ecosystem. Aside from the fact that this means you should look at whether any subnets have ties to key players in the Ethereum ecosystem, it could also mean that TAO will benefit greatly when ETH finally starts to rally. If you're too lazy to do all of the above, though, then just become a member of the Coin Bureau Club, where we're planning on doing an altcoin review poll featuring Bittensor subnets. As a member, you'll have the chance to have a say in which subnet we review. Remember, the link is down in the description. Now, this brings me to the moment you've all been waiting for, and that's TAO's price and potential. When we last covered Bittensor, we noted that TAO could rally as high as $1,000 by the end of 2025. Well, our prediction came close-ish. TAO rallied up to around $750 before crashing down. The good news is that TAO managed to hold its support level of $200 when it did collapse. When you zoom out, you can see the result. TAO has been trading in a range between $200 and around $750 for over a year and a half. The recent bounce from $200 suggests $750 comes next. What happens after that is where things get interesting. If TAO manages to break above $750 in the coming weeks, then it could rally as high as $1,300. Funnily enough, this could potentially be the price that Barry Silbert has in mind. Remember how he mentioned that Grayscale played a role in pumping BTC from $100 to $1,000 in 2013? Well, if you look back, Bitcoin actually went a bit above $1,000, just like TAO could now. And this begs the question of what could cause TAO to break out of this range it's been trading in over the past 18 months. By now, the answer should be obvious: speculation around Bittensor subnet tokens. As a yet another fun fact, it seems that every crypto project has its own speculative strategy to pump up the price of its respective coin or token. For Solana, meme coins are what drove so much demand for Sol. In TAO's case, it's clear that its subnet tokens are the speculative strategy. And this begs a bigger question, though. And that's what makes Bittensor's subnet tokens any different from, say, the AI agent tokens launched by Virtuals. The short answer is that the subnets on Bittensor are comparatively legit. Let me remind you that some of them have been raising money from VCs, unlike almost all of the AI agent chatbots. People will notice this and potentially ape in, driving TAO's price higher. Meanwhile, the narrative of Bittensor being the Bitcoin of AI could attract serious attention if we see another speculative wave around AI. Well, it looks like there will be, and Tesla's upcoming self-driving feature could be the catalyst that triggers it all. There's just one caveat though, and that's the supply side of this equation. If you watched our first update, you'll know that TAO's emission schedule follows an incredibly aggressive curve, wherein 7,200 TAO are issued to miners, validators, and subnets every single day until the first halving, which was initially scheduled in November 2025, but could happen as late as January 2026, according to TAO stats. Regardless, by our calculations, TAO's supply has grown by almost 1.6 million since late October 2024, 7,200 times around 222 days. Assuming an average price of around $400 per TAO, this means that it experienced as much as $640 million of sell pressure over the last 7 months. Given the relative lack of demand during this time, it's honestly a miracle that TAO's price didn't completely collapse. We suspect this resilience is due in part to the fact that most receivers of TAO appear to be staking it rather than selling it. As you can see, over 70% of TAO's circulating supply is staked, and this could have the practical effect of making its price more volatile in either direction, but so far, it's been relatively stable. The fact of the matter is that Bittensor seems to have positioned itself as the blue-chip crypto within the AI niche, and this is likely to put it at the top of the pack when the AI speculative wave comes back. And that's why we stand by our initial cycle top prediction, which is that TAO could rally as high as $5,000 as a result. And if you're looking to trade TAO, then check out the Coin Bureau deals page down below or in the QR code right over here. That's where you'll find sign-up bonuses of up to $100,000, trading fee discounts of up to 50%, and cashbacks on deposits of up to 75% on the best crypto exchanges around. These deals won't be around for long, so take advantage of them ASAP using the link down below or this QR code. Now, whether TAO could hit 5K depends on its upcoming milestones. Bittensor has no official roadmap, but its upcoming milestones can be found in the weekly live streams the Bittensor Foundation posts on its YouTube channel. And the first milestone is something Jacob Steves mentioned back in January during the beta testing for DTAO, and that's that they want to make it possible for subnets to become their own chains. And this makes sense given that many subnets have big backers who presumably want to maximize the returns they'll get on their associated tokens. By making it possible for subnets to spin out and create their own Bittensor-style blockchains, it not only benefits their early backers, but also validates Bittensor's approach to building decentralized AI, which is what the project is all about after all. In that same livestream, Steves noted that the next 2 milestones after the launch of DTAO, which happened in February, will be improving Bittensor's decentralized governance and further decentralizing its blockchain. Now, to put things into perspective, only 10 entities currently vote in Bittensor's governance, and there are only 70 validators on its blockchain, according to TAO stats. More importantly, Steves revealed that most subnets will initially be powered by the same set of a dozen validators to begin with. As far as we can tell, this is still the case at the time of shooting. As such, it's safe to assume that the decentralization milestone also applies to the subnets, not just the main chain. Steves has also noted that the Bittensor Foundation nonprofit will eventually be wound down. In the more immediate term, Bittensor will be joining an event in Paris called Proof of Talk that takes place on June 10th, so in the next few coming days. Regarding the event, Steves said, quote, "Join me to pitch BlackRock on free AI, permissionless systems, and incentivized model training at the Louvre in Paris." Oddly enough, we didn't see anyone from BlackRock on the roster of speakers, just people from Bittensor's ecosystem. Another thing we haven't seen is websites like DeFi Llama tracking Bittensor's on-chain activity. And this is likewise odd because you'd think it would be easy to integrate another EVM-style chain. That said, it's possible that this kind of data could be imminent as we're starting to see EVM dApps launch on Bittensor. For instance, TAOFi recently launched Uniswap v3 on Bittensor with a USDC bridge to Base and Ethereum. And this foreshadows imminent inflows into Bittensor's ecosystem from Base, Ethereum, and other blockchains. There's just one problem, though, and that's that opening the liquidity spigots doesn't mean the liquidity will flow. Considering how retail investors have been burned by speculative AI pump and dumps, it seems unlikely that they'll be itching to get burned again on Bittensor, even if its subnets are legit. Not only that, but it seems that the average retail investor sees that there's more to Bittensor than meets the eye, and not in a good way. It turns out that Bittensor's early investors having at least 600,000 TAO is just the tip of the iceberg. Steve's revealed that the OpenTensor Foundation holds 700 to 800,000 TAO, and this means as much as 20% of TAO's circulating supply is held by insiders. And this brings me to the challenges that we foresee for Bittensor. And the first challenge is the lack of transparency, which continues to be an issue. You'll recall that Bittensor's technology was supposedly created by a pseudonymous individual or a group who goes by the name Yuma Rao, just like Bitcoin with Satoshi. Well, unlike Bitcoin, Yuma Rao is still publishing white papers, like the DTAO white paper in February. One could argue that this makes the whole pseudonymous thing kind of pointless, especially when Steves frequently uses the word "we" when describing Bittensor in interviews. The narrative that Bittensor received no VC funding is also arguably a bit deceptive. Yes, there was no pre-mine of TAO, but Steves has literally admitted in interviews that the team mined TAO and sold it to investors after launching. Come to think of it, this could be the first ever case of a crypto project launching with a post-mine rather than a pre-mine. As far as we can tell, there's no real difference between the two. They both result in a substantial amount of the supply going to insiders, but perhaps it's some kind of a legal loophole. And this ties into the second challenge, and that's tokenomics. To be blunt, it seems that the actual reason why TAO has held up so well despite its rampant inflation is that a substantial percentage of the supply is held by insiders, be it investors, the mysterious OpenTensor Foundation, or otherwise. Notably, these insiders seem to be some of the largest miners and validators, and could be mostly staking the TAO that they receive. While there is demand for TAO via subnet tokens now, the small size of their market caps suggests there isn't much speculation, and we're skeptical that there will be. And this is simply because this speculative strategy is too similar to the others that have already been tried on other chains, like virtuals on Base. Moreover, these other speculative AI tokens seem to be more accessible than Bittensor's subnets. And this relates to the third challenge, and that's competition. From what we've seen, there are a lot of quality AI cryptos out there. Although they don't feature the same fully decentralized stack as Bittensor, most of them are much easier to understand and use, at least in our experience. As we noted in our previous review, Bittensor comes off as unnecessarily complicated, especially to the casual observer. To be clear, there are some seriously brilliant minds working on Bittensor and its subnets, but it seems that they forget that the average person is not as brilliant. This is a good strategy if you're trying to appeal to academics or compete with other cutting-edge AI companies and projects, but it's not a good strategy if you're trying to attract users and investors. They'll just shrug their shoulders and walk away. With all that said, though, Bittensor's challenges aren't nearly as big as they were when we first covered the project. Its ecosystem seems to be booming, and the case for TAO looks stronger than ever in our view. Whether it's enough to attract attention and capital remains to be seen, but with backers like DCG, chances are that some of Bittensor's subnets will be massive moonshots. And if you want to dig into these subnets yourself and need help doing your research, then check out our video on how to DYOR right over here. And if you're not subscribed to the channel yet, you can do that right over here. This is Nick signing off. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.